This is The Foundation, stories from people who build things, products, services, businesses, how they started, what they're doing now, and where they're going.
Good Friday today, Tatsuya. How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate the invite, David.
I appreciate it too. How many podcasts have you done over the years? I see from your CV that you are an entrepreneur, an author, and a podcaster, probably in that order. So, how many podcasts have you done?
You mean like as a host or a guest or
Well, you can combine them or you can split them up, whatever you'd like.
I don't know, maybe like I don't know, maybe seven, 800 probably.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I like talking with people that build products, and I'd like to know the foundation of Castagra, if I'm even pronouncing that correctly.
Castagra, our technology is based on castor oil, and it's kind of agriculture, so we came up with the word Castagra as the name. But I think with our company, how I started was I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And the story I commonly tell is when I was 10, I had a friend of mine that had a pear tree, and I had this idea, which was to take these pears, set up a sort of table next to a bus station near a convenience store that didn't have fruit and sell fruit. And so we did that, and we weren't doing very well. And I think it was mainly because the pears were so ugly. Like we thought I thought it was a great idea, but the pears were ugly. Nothing was selling. And just before we were gonna quit, there was a guy, and he said, I love entrepreneurs, and pulled a
First
crisp.
time you ever heard that word, right?
Absolutely. I mean, and pulled out a crisp $20 bill and gave it to us. We were 10. That was $1 million to us. And it kind of stuck in the back of my mind. Even if you had, a horrible idea, it was poorly executed and we were failing. If you try something, you at least learn something, but good things can happen. So it kind of stuck in my head as a possibility. And what happened?
Where was that pear tree? And where was that corner?
Well, this is in Vancouver, BC. Back when I was young, there wasn't all these podcasts around which, entrepreneurs or founders would
Right.
detail out how they did it in such, amazing detail. Like you can find so much good stuff right now, but at the time there wasn't a lot. So I went with the old-fashioned approach, look for a mentor that I thought I can learn from. And a friend of mine introduced me to a guy named Peter Rosen. So he was an inventor. He invented a bunch of stuff. He invented the ability to watch video on a computer and
Okay.
sold it to Bill Gates. So he's done a few things.
Sure.
And I was very lucky enough to get the opportunity to sort of intern or work for him for free. And we developed a relationship, and we did some things around marketing and product launch. But one of the things that he accidentally invented was a coating. And how that coating came to be was, back in the late 80s, there was a lot of high-end homes that have these curved walls, especially these curved staircases. And the
The
carpentry trade,
interiors, right. Yeah.
absolutely, the carpentry trade would have a fit. And you probably know this. At the time, they had to cut the baseboards into Lego-sized pieces and try to go around these
Sure.
staircases, and it looked horrible and everyone hated it. And Peter, the inventor, had a friend that was in the carpentry trade and bugged him to come up with something. So Peter did. 6 months, he wanted to make something sustainable because he was aware of environmental impact even way back then. And
Sure.
in the process of creating that, he created a coating, and that's kind of the basis of Castagra to this day.
That coating was had castor oil in it, is what you're saying, right?
Absolutely, castor oil and gypsum, and the baseboard material, which was flexible, can be painted on, put nails into, kind of scaled, and it's all over the place, right? But this coating, he kind of commercialized and lost interest. And when I met him, I knew he did that before. So we kind of brought that back and improved upon it, relaunched it. So that's kind of the basis of Castagra. The process of him doing that, because he ran thousands of experiments, he
Sure.
came up with the coating. And being the scientist that he is, he started to coat ship decks, floors, roofs, all sorts of stuff. He sort of commercialized it a little bit, lost interest, and kind of left it.
Is he still inventing?
Absolutely, he's still coming up with different things and having fun doing it.
Does he work for Castagra?
Well, he's basically it's founded it together,
Sure.
right? So with
Sure.
a few people. So yeah, he's still day to day. He'll interact with customers and do R&D, and yeah, he's still enjoying.
Well, that leads me to the question that when I look on your website, I see the promise of a roof material that is zero VOC, BPA, low toxicity, but also the promise of incredible adhesion. And my question to you is, it sounds almost too good to be true. So tell me about how.
Sure. I mean, I think just to be clear, this, call it, very great, too good to be true material was invented by accident. Like it happened to
Nothing
work
wrong with
really
that.
well. So if we think, this was the plan all along. It wasn't the case. We did some other industries. We tried it. We found the roofing was a very good fit. The perm levels, the adhesion levels, they had value for repairability. That's the thing with entrepreneurship many times. Like you have a great plan, and as Mike Tyson would say, you get punched in the face or something happens, and then you end up. And the question is, do you have a good group? Are you adaptable? Are you willing to learn new things and figure it out? And I think that's the possibility right now. What we do perfect in every situation? No, it's pretty good. I think over the years we've learned some things that we could tweak to make it more suited for different types of things. I think originally when we came out, we said, okay, this could be great for 20 things. And I think that there's two problems with that. As a company, you're not focused enough. And also, there's a lot more good you can do if you can take that, tweak it, and give very good guidance or, sort of improve characteristics for it just to keep optimizing it and improving it. So I think that's, where we started with, hey, we can do a few things well and we can expand on that was kind of that sort of maturation process, right? So
Who's your other competitors then? You would think that there would be a bevy of them.
you see some more companies starting to do things, try to do things similar, which is great, right? Because when a large company does something, that's not the first thing they try, right? The first thing they do is they ignore you, right? And the second thing, it naturally is reject you, right? They're not
Right.
good. And then if you don't go away, then it's like, okay, well, maybe we should do something, right?
Right.
And stuff. And from looking at just from a sustainability point, which is really important, if you have other companies in which roofing is not necessarily the most sustainable business or industry, like it's taken a
Sure.
long time for things to change. So if what we do in a small way sort of adapts or allows other companies to change in that direction, I feel that's like an overall win for us.
Well, that's good. Well, you talk about the challenges of making a big turn for any manufacturer. I would imagine, as a consumer, we always wonder why this doesn't happen more quickly. But in reality, with the infrastructure of any manufacturing process and the incredible amount of expenditures on machinery and everything, it's a large ship to turn, isn't it?
Absolutely. I understand. Everyone has to do a job. And I guess the role of smaller to medium-sized companies is that, they're a little bit more nimble so they could lead the charge for positive change.
Sure. How strong is USGBC today within the context of the product niche that you're in?
You mean the green building side?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean we don't do new construction stuff. That's a little bit more of the larger companies. But I'm always amazed at all the effort in that area, right? The architects, and they're always trying to push the envelope on that. So I mean ultimately with these standards, because there's contractors and architects and material suppliers. I mean, it just comes down to education and collaboration, right? Everyone can have a plan of how they want to do things, but a lot of things can change during the building process. So any effort to sort of move that along and sort of increase the adoption or awareness of different options or different like you said standards or benefits to doing that, whether it's compliance or otherwise, I'm a big fan of.
Well, let me ask you about that. Where awareness and continued marketing efforts. What has COVID done for building materials? Tell me how that's shifted your efforts.
Sure. I think, one of the, and this is, of course, accidental. This wasn't by design, but our materials, castor, plant-based, we weren't creating a Me Too product. So we got very lucky. So we didn't have these long lead times. Now, in terms of meeting people and doing that, we've always been fairly kind of technology driven. Like we
Okay.
had most of the stuff in our company online. We weren't doing full video conferencing, but we were all fairly distributed already. So we were very lucky there. I've was always been a fan of social media and stuff like that. So, we've always been fairly strong there. So when that happened and a lot of companies started to switch over, we had an edge. And also it was very nice to see other companies sort of utilizing technologies in which sometimes we kind of struggled with because we were very techy on that side
Okay.
and some other companies not were necessarily not. So it helped us sort of interface, but at the same time, our company sort of prioritizes technology and stuff like that. Where we had to get better is just on the ground, face to face, doing the things that has worked for a long time. So I think what our focus has been, because that other stuff has come more naturally to us, is just get better at the face to face, the relational side, and not to go quickly to digital or those sort of things.
Well, yeah, the old face-to-face lunch learn when there's an actual sandwich is a lot different than a lunch and learn over a video camera.
Yeah, you need both and you need to do both well. And I think for us, some companies do the face-to-face very well. Maybe they don't do the digital well. We've been trying to do the face-to-face better.
How do you, as technology, not only from a manufacturing standpoint, and I'm reticent to get into the AI conversation, and yet that almost has to be a part of a conversation for anybody within marketing or manufacturing. How do you keep current? Is it curiosity that says, let's try this out?
You hang around people that are that way. That's the easiest, I think.
Okay.
Because the thing is they naturally just, have stuff out. And I think the thing for us is just to make sure that there's always a portfolio of trying new things, right? So let's say 10 to 20%, right? If you get to stuck in a routine or even things that are working, take 10 to 20% to always try new things and encourage it. I think that's something that we've always done. I think with that you always discover new things. Now it's easy to sit down and you talked about AI and just ask ChatGPT about ideas, but I think the things, if you're kind of failing in small ways, I think that's fantastic because
Right.
I think like in many cases, the cost of failing on many things are very low. Now, if your cost of failing is very high, then you have to be more careful. You have to get more buy-in. You have to do X, Y, Z. But if the cost of failing is a small amount of money, or even better, a little bit of embarrassment, pay the price. Yeah, for sure.
So, would you say that your curiosity and your effort to try new things is nurture or nature? Or is that your
Oh, it's yeah.
born
I would
DNA, or is it a combination of both?
I mean, I think when I was younger, I think it came very naturally. I think as I get older, I think I have to try harder. And part of trying harder is hang out with younger people. Younger people is not the only place you can get ideas. You can be of any age, but you may be sort of young at heart, extremely curious people that are different than you. You have to make an effort, I find for myself, as you get older, it gets a little bit more difficult. I think maybe you just get a little bit more comfortable or set a little bit in your routines, and I try to be careful with that.
Well, I've always said that curiosity doesn't atrophy. Many other things do as I age, but that's one thing that I can keep going.
There you go.
Tell me about the first thing you ever wrote, because I want to talk a little bit about your Overcoming Inventoritis book, but tell me the first thing you wrote.
I'm not a great writer, but I like thinking about different things. One of the things I do like is I like talking to different people. If I were to get a request for a guest or get a request to be on a show, then would I take that meeting anyways? Like if no one was listening, would I still take the meeting and would I still have the
Interesting.
conversation? Is how I think about it. I find that for me personally, if I'm thinking about curating an audience and I don't follow my curiosity, then I find it hard for me to keep it up. And I think, most people that start podcasts, they go to about 20 episodes and it dies, or year one. So, it's very few people that are still doing podcasting when I started podcasting 6.5 years ago. And the
Wow.
people that kept it up are usually the ones that followed their own curiosity, or maybe they turned it into a big business, but usually the other type is they follow their own curiosity and they allow that to sort of realize that there's enough people in the world maybe are curious in the same way they are.
That's a great segue to tell me about Castagra Cares.
Well, I think just we've always try to find different ways that we can be of benefit. I think for us, the main thing that sort of taken from that is the scholarship that we have that Megan Eastwood, our director of marketing, has come up with. And I think
She's
links.
the actress, right?
Yeah, yeah, she is. She is.
Musician, actress, and director of marketing. That's
Yeah,
quite a number of good hats.
which is great. I mean, when we connected, this was many different years ago. I had two candidates, and yeah, looking for talent, giving people a chance in different ways is always great because when you look at anyone's resume or their background, you don't know what they are capable of, and sometimes when you give people a chance, right, that are just involved in different things, you get really surprised and happy. So I always like that aspect of trying things. But going to the scholarship, she's done a wonderful job with promoting sustainability in the trades through that scholarship. And, because we want to try to do our best to push the message of sustainability within building materials and construction. I mean, in terms of like a footprint, right? I mean, the construction industry has a massive footprint on that stuff.
Right.
And anything that we can do, especially the people that are coming into the industry, and that we can sort of find the people that are passionate about it, engage them, contribute to their success in any way that we possibly can, or help however we can. It's been great. I think it's the fourth or fifth year, and every year just the number of submissions and the number of things people are doing or they talk about is just getting better and better. There's just there's so much more to do, but I'm just happy because I just see so many more initiatives in the industry overall. So there's always talk about shortages of skilled labor and stuff like that, but I've seen so many more things that are done towards that. So I think things are looking a bit more positive than maybe 10 or 15 years ago in that category.
It's pretty obvious to sort of end. What should I have asked you with?
I learned early on, and I got this concept from a motivational like personnel coach, but he talks about the three weaknesses. Have you heard of this before?
I'm sure I've got all three of them, but go right ahead.
We all have all three. So the first type of weakness is like, for instance, like I'm not a good cook. I'm horrible at it. Luckily, my wife doesn't care and she wants nothing to do with me trying to become better, right? So weakness number one is a weakness that you do not need to mitigate, right?
Okay.
For whatever reason, you do not need to mitigate because it doesn't add to your quality of life at this time, right?
Okay.
Now, weakness two. Weakness two is one that maybe you can't be too bad at it, but you don't necessarily have to be too great at it. Now, in business, there's three buckets. There's the demand generation, there's kind of operations bucket, and then there's the third bucket, which is doing it profitably. Now, I've seen people that are good at one, good at two, but I've never seen people that are good at three. Okay? But for me, like my general concept is you need to be good at one bucket and be okay at two. So
Okay.
the second, if you have a weakness, like finance was the one that I was very bad at, and until I don't have the finance brain, but I got okay at it. Okay, passable. So the demand generation, okay, I understand that, and then the other two areas I got okay at. Right? So, but I have never met someone that's great at all three. Now, so that's a weakness you have to mitigate to a level that doesn't cause you, issue depending on what your goal is, right? Okay, so here's weakness number three. Weakness number three is all based on your goals. If you're gonna go out and change the world, and you're not a great speaker, well, you probably need to change that. So you can't be bad at it.
Right.
You can't be just okay at it. As a communicator, you probably have to be world class. You don't need to have the polish. If you listen to Elon Musk, he has his own style of communicating.
Sure.
But he's persuasive, in his own way. Weakness number three, depending on your own situation and how you define success in your own way, is a weakness you have to turn into a strength. So if we all have weaknesses, right? Our strengths are sometimes or many times the basis of our weaknesses. So we have to decide based on our vision, our personal definition of success, which weaknesses I can, leave alone, which weaknesses I have to mitigate, and which weaknesses I have to turn into strengths to do what I want to do.
Well, you've mentioned that your weakness in cooking is not something you have to worry about. So what is the weakness that you have turned into a strength?
I think the weakness I've turned into a strength to some extent is just, sometimes the combination of different things. I think one of my weaknesses was I never really understood how to commercialize a product. I had a marketing company that did product feasibility and product launch. And, that's with Peter's inspiration, but, I was kind of spearheading it.
Sure.
So I had the opportunity to help launch about 100 different products. So 70% of them was consumer product, 30% was industrial or technology related. When I first started, I was so bad. I was so bad at it. I didn't understand it. I was failing horribly. And as I got along, I got better and better and better. Now, there's no such thing as perfect in innovation, but it got to a threshold where my success loss was acceptable and I knew how to understand it. That I turned from a complete weakness. I love the idea of taking an idea and trying to expand it, influence, gain supporters. But it took about 100, complete, shots at it, with many of those being face plants to be able to do it to some level of success.
100 lessons learned, I think, is what we tell ourselves.
Well, thousands, right? But that was my first 100, right? Okay. Tens of thousands, but that was the first 100 that really had the big impact.
Great. I promised a pretty quick conversation, Tatsuya. Thank you once again for giving us your insight.
Yeah, thank you, David.
Thank you.
The Foundation is produced by Studio Conover and edited by Brett Euler. Studio Conover is a strategic marketing design firm for manufacturers of building products. Visit studioconover.com for more information.